Hello, heathens.
Heathens at
It's
night.
heathens at night.
Heathens at night.
Uh, fair warning, it's heathens at night. Also, words are hard today. So we have dyslexia, man, of the mouth, and it is hard to make words.
Oh, yeah. Full sentences, words, periods, punctuations, all of the above. I've even found that my note taking is not very normal either.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm
That's okay.
like, but and the, and I'm like, well, that
But
doesn't
and
make
then.
sense. That makes literally no sense, but okay.
Okay.
Here we go.
I think this is perfect atmosphere though for the subject matter that we are talking for today.
Which you guys read it on title. I realized in uploading of our last video that you probably read it on the title and then we're like, we're talking about this today. But for the sake of keeping with tradition, we are talking about Crowley, Aliester Crowley today.
We like to announce it by voice, not just by word.
Yeah, it's also for us because it keeps our
Mind.
very we like to take roundabouts and detours, minds aligned.
Roundabouts. I love roundabouts. Those are my
We,
favorite.
we do love roundabouts though, literally.
Mhm.
I also love a Michigan left.
Oh, I do
When
love Michigan left.
when I travel elsewhere and I'm driving and there's not a Michigan left, I really just don't know what I'm doing unless I turn left on a road I actually can turn left and then turn around to go right because I don't understand how
I
people
don't
are
like
not
it.
doing it.
I don't like it.
How do they live? How do you guys live without Michigan lefts?
You know, when I was driving in New Jersey, they don't even have on-ramps. They have a yield sign. I'm like, how do you guys live your life? No wonder you
Dude,
guys are mad about it all the
by the
time.
way, the other day, I was driving to Bella's house. She's out in Brighton, and I went up through downtown, and I saw something like that I realized we have that I realized I have only ever taken a couple times in my life because I refuse to go that way because it stresses me out so bad. But you know, like when you're getting off north to go, we went when we went to Brighton for the house cleansing, and we were going up there. There's like as you're merging, there's another yield right there to get onto that very, very, very busy section. And
Ugh.
I watched somebody sitting there and I'm like, you are at a full stop. We are going 60 miles an hour.
Yeah,
How are you
0 to
getting?
60.
You're punched it. Like, and it made me think of you when you were driving in New Jersey, and I was like, dude, that just seems so stressful. Like a very
It,
long on ramp.
it was, but it was very good for my soul because, like, I did it. I did good. I got the car back to the airport. Like, I did something that scared me. So it was like super, it was good.
Fuck yeah,
Like,
buddy. Yeah, you did.
me walking down that hallway in the dark. Oh,
You did do that. Okay, you guys. So there's been a lot that's happened since we recorded last because we are recording
hmm.
later than we would because of Thanksgiving.
And
W-
humanness.
and just yeah, life. We run lives. We have lives. That's weird. Weird way to say that, but okay. We went to the Eloise Asylum and we did the paranormal
Hmm.
haunt, maybe both. It was chef's kiss of chef
It's good.
kisses. It was
Yeah.
a 10 out of 10. And Nicole, so they take you through levels 2 through 5, and
Hmm.
you go with somebody who's one of their investigators. We got the coolest person ever,
You did. What
ever.
was your name?
Oh, I cannot. Allison, I think maybe. Something like that. She was so cool.
Hmm.
And at the fifth floor, she was like, "So who wants to put in? Do you know what the thing that she used was called?"
SMR. It's the it's when the radio goes through the scanning and you hear words that are supposed to simulate ghost talking to you is really what it
Mhm.
is.
And she's like, "Does anybody want to put these headbuds in and walk down there by themselves?" Now, mind you. This building is not as big as I think you would think it is during the day, but at night in the pitch black where there's only street lights maybe or like a phone or flashlight if you're lucky, it seems like you're staring into the freaking abyss. And I was like,
Hmm.
absolutely fucking not. I'm not. All I can think in my head is, I'm not fucking walking down that hallway. Absolutely not. And Nicole's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And I was like, you're gonna do it? And I was like excited, but also scared. I was like, you're gonna do it?
Scared.
She's like, yeah, I didn't do it last time. I need to do it this time, or I'm gonna be mad at myself. And she fucking did
Yeah.
that shit. She walked down there with headphones in. You can't hear much
Oh,
outside of it, if anything, because it's pretty loud and it's running through stations. And she walked by herself down there.
oh, so scary. And I went so fast. In
Yeah,
fact, when I got back,
she
she was like,
was.
that was quick. I was like, yeah, I'm scared,
You're like, I was scared. I'm like, good for
bitch.
you.
I
I
was
wasn't even gonna
scared.
do that.
I was like, oh.
I'm staying with the living humans
And then
around
the
me.
the two guys that were doing it, they like went down there, ate lunch, like, and then came back. Like they were down there, had a picnic, took a nap. The
They
fuck? I was like,
literally they set up camp. They took their
right.
sweet ass time picking the herbs, drying the herbs, putting it in the hot water, steeping it. They poured the tea. They made their own sugar. They have bees down there. They made their own honey. Like, and then once that got good and hot, and they had it all ready and in the cup, they sat down there and
Yeah, and they
enjoyed that
enjoyed their
tea.
tea. Right. Fuck.
Yeah, because the one guy at the third guy, there it was one guy, then Nicole went, and then the third guy, my God, he went down there so long, we all started walking around and like he's
Oh yeah, we
just
forgot you were
chilling.
there. Yeah. Sitting in a chair down at the end, pitch dark.
And the girl, the people that were with him, one of the women was like, "Wow, you getting comfy?" He's like, "Yeah, it's pretty cozy in here." And I was like, "Cozy
Okay.
where?"
I tried not
Go.
to run. I felt like I was gonna run. I was like, there's something behind me. There's something behind me. Do not run. Don't run.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
It was very cool. And when I say that every single person at the in our group, we had 13 people, every person experienced something. They all genuinely did, and it was just so
we had a
fucking
lot of
cool.
activity that night. We had a lot of things going off. We had a lot of activity. Everybody's phone was like, she'd ask a question, and like three phones would answer different things. Like, it was really cool.
Nicole's name was
What?
said.
Yeah, I was gonna say my name was said.
Yeah, that's when I was like, holy shit.
They're
It said your
listening.
name. It was so cool. And it was a little freaky at first because you get on that first floor and it's pitch black and she's like, yeah, so this is what we're gonna be, and your eyes are gonna adjust. My mind said, when? Are they ever
I
gonna adjust? Because I can't see a fucking thing.
would like to get either night vision
Oh, that'd be cool. Oh, or like thermal goggles would be cool too.
or thermal. That would be cool too.
That would be really cool.
I mean, at the end there, I remember because like I would hear things on the recorder, and I was like, I can't tell if this is like because it sounded like a group of people, like chatter, like a whole group. And I didn't really realize it was like spirits until I gave it to you, and you were like, I can't hear anything.
I was
And I
like,
was
dude, I
like,
hear nothing.
you don't hear anything?
Yeah, we very much found out that my talents are in sight and sight alone this during this because even anything sound wise, it got me out. Like I said, in the choke tub, I heard nothing,
Yeah.
felt everything.
Yeah, you probably could have took those out and then just got what you got.
Yeah, I felt very much. I think that the reason why, well, because I've been thinking about this a lot and also talking about it a lot, I think part of the reason why I definitely am not good at the hearing thing is because I can usually see and feel so much that like, and I'm so used to hearing and seeing with my third eye that hearing something so distracting almost. It's just I was
Hmm.
on sensory overload in that tub. I was like, I can't
There
breathe, I
was
can't
a
breathe. And when I was like getting really overstimulated, you put your hand on my arm and I was like, I wanted to be like, thank fucking God, get me out of this fucking tub right now. Get me the fuck out of here. I'm done.
gotta go.
I gotta get out. Goodbye.
Yeah, it was very good. It was very interesting. And we did get a lot of stuff, which was nice. And I can't wait to go back. Actually, I would like to go to a new one. We should find a new haunt to go to.
I am low key addicted now.
Yeah,
Hmm.
me too.
Yep, I am very much ready for the next one we decide to go to. And if it's Eloise again, which I would like to do, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with
Just,
that. It's close. Plus, like, I feel the more comfortable we get with like the whole thing is being comfortable at ghost hunting is you have to do it over and over and over again because that's how you build up like, oh, this is normal, this is not normal. Like, this is what
hmm.
I'm feeling, this is what I'm not feeling. It's like it's a huge science experiment, and we have just started with our data collecting. So
Yeah, yeah. It was cool. We highly recommend. 10 out of 10 recommend. It was super fun.
yeah, if you're
Um,
going right now though, dress warm.
yeah, for real. There's no heat.
Mm-mm.
No heat at all. Um, okay, my friend. Should we jump into Aliester Crowley?
Yes. So Aliester Crowley was born Edward Alexander Crowley. He was born 1875 to 1947
In England.
in England.
In England. Because I was talking to somebody about this to see if they had heard of him, and they're like, "Where's he from?" And I was like, it's in my notes.
Good. Yeah, because I didn't even put that down. Note taking.
I know. I get it.
Nicole's way.
It's the important stuff.
That's right. Like his grandfather made ale, and that's how they got their fortune. So it was called Crowley's Ale in the 19th century. This made them very wealthy.
Fuck yeah, it did.
So a little bit of the background with Aleister Crowley growing up was that he was a devout Christian. His family was a devout Christianity called the Plymouth Brethren. This group was formed in 1820. There's two groups inside this group. One is the exclusive brethrens and the open brethrens. The first one, the exclusive ones, they literally will not have any communications with anybody outside of the religion, and they would even avoid interacting with non-members, including business and education too. There was no formal um oh, they literally interpreted the Bible and as a sole authority in faith and practice. There was no formal clergyman. They just sat around and preached sermons. There was no like preacher or
Mm,
anything like that. So they would just sit in small groups and talk about the Bible, the New Testament.
mm.
They did not engage in politics or entertainment. Exclusive brethrens avoided interaction. Oh, I said that. Weekly communication to reflect on the New Testament. And they were also evangelicals,
Evangelicus? I don't know.
even, oh, she must be cleaning snakes. I think that's what I'm hearing. I'm like, what the, um, Eve, evangel,
Evangelist? Is that it?
evangelist. That's what I want.
There it is.
Sorry, I'm doing two things at once too, because I
Oh
think
no, it's okay. I know. It was bothering me because I'm like, oh, it's right here.
um, active in missionary work and spreading the gospel. There's estimate at this day and age, there's estimate 1 million members globally. No Christmas either. Sorry.
Mm, makes
I
sense.
don't think they celebrate stuff either.
Can I really quick interject?
Hmm.
I just really quick for those listeners that don't know who Aliester Crowley is and why we're talking about him, just to give you a quick, easy thing. He was a British occultist, writer, and mountaineer who he was a practitioner of magic, and there's a lot of stuff around him, so that's why we're talking about him. Just so those of you that are like, who the hell is that? Or why are we talking about him? That's why.
Why are we
Because
talking?
there's a lot of stuff around him, which we'll get into as Nicole keeps giving us this background history, but I just really quick wanted to make it
Yeah,
clear.
he formed his own religion, or ceremonial. He really, I feel, pushed the boundaries of ritual magic to spaces that uh needed to expand it. It needed to be expanded.
Yeah, I would agree.
And then at uh age 11, his father dies. Well, okay, so wait, so since his grandfather had made all the money, his father didn't really need anything. So he went into basically preaching for this brethren. And I found it interesting that at age 11, Alistair was 11, his father died in 1887 of tongue cancer.
Oh yeah, I did read that.
And I find that interesting because, like, I'm not sure because cancer is about feeling. So I'm wondering if he didn't feel that his tongue was pure enough or good enough. I don't
Maybe.
necessarily think he was doing anything wrong per se, but
Mm,
well, and that was now at this point, Crowley was fully into the spirituality of the Christianity thing and believed all of it and was very devout. When his father died is when he really started to like rebel. And that around that age is pretty much normal because you start to go to puberty and stuff like that. But this is the real strict, like Victorian age too. And the fact like these guys are, they're not having sex, they're not talking about sex, you can't talk to other people. Um, it's real strict and there's lots of rules.
it very much reminds me of what's the people that came over, the
Um, Puritans.
Puritans, where it was like so strict, no music, no nothing. Like
Hmm.
you weren't able to
Hmm.
enjoy sex. You were only allowed to have sex for mm, strictly like making babies, like, stuff like that, where
Hmm.
it was like it very much feels like a new version of the what was it again?
Puritans.
Puritans, thank you. God, my brain is like boop, gone.
And that's it very well could have been like, because that was in the 1600s. I want to say 1600s when they came over to America. So they were established before then. Um, but it's very much like they all wore black. You weren't allowed to dance. You couldn't laugh. Like you always had to be serious. Like
Yeah,
it was super strict.
super strict.
Um, and his mother was also ruled the house with a very strict Christian attitude. And I think this is where they kind of butted heads, especially with him dealing with his dad's like death and going through the grieving process in underneath like her rule. This is where she started referring to him as the beast and referring to the beast in the Bible in Revelations.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, so this is a little out of order. I think it's a little. So he started to explore a sin. And it says that he liked wicked women. He liked to be degraded, which makes sense because of his mother.
I mean, yeah.
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 There was a time where I'm not sure how young he was at this point or what age he was at, but he had heard at some point that a cat had 9 lives. And he set out to kind of either prove or disprove it. So he had captured a cat. And now the nice thing is that he did put arsenic in him first. So that at least makes it better for all the other times because he killed the cat 9 times. And he didn't
Crazy.
like revive it or like and then kill it again. He did one act and then did another act and just kept doing it to the cat until he reached 9, and then that was it. So, and I can kind of, if we take out the vulgarity or the shock value of, because I love cats too, like, and what he did, I kind of see where this like whole sciency kind of thing, like if you were told me that cats, it's like a superstition that you're trying to prove true. So, of course, I'm not saying it's right, but I can kind of see where like his brain was going.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, yeah. Well, just,
It's
that's
very
a hard
shocking.
one to, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's very shocking. It's very hard to look at it in a more disassociated kind of way
Right.
and just
True.
take the facts. At this time, he was also in and out of school. Um, he would go to school, get in trouble, get kicked out, go to school, get in trouble, get kicked out. At this time, his mother went to live with her brother, and when he saw Alistair, well, he did not believe that he was the beast, obviously. And then he was kind of sickly, so they took him to the doctors and they basically let him go outside and like fishing, hiking. I think this is where he developed his love for rock climbing and stuff, the
Mm,
adventure part of it. Um, this is kind of where he found his freedom.
mm,
So he would bring in, before he got better, he'd bring in private tutors for him. He found his love for poetry at this point. Um, he So back in the day, right? Like guys got christened, right? Like they took them places to get their virginity taken away or whatever, right? So
I
he
did
lost
not know
his,
that.
yeah, he lost his at 15 to a prostitute. Like they
Oh,
thought
well,
that would make him better,
that explains a lot.
right? Um, okay, before that. So he had a whole theory on Jack the Ripper too. He had wrote a paper, and I didn't look this paper up, but it's out there that Dr. Robert D. Onstead Stephenson was Jack the Ripper because he had occult ties. The murders could have been ritualistic and occult elements in it. Um, the doctor was also a doctor, so all the Jack the Ripper like murders were done with like clean precision cuts, and so they did have speculation that it was a doctor of some sort.
Interesting.
He was very good at chess and he loved books, very much loved rock climbing. He went to the Alps, he traveled Europe, and his main goal on this whole path that really hit me, and I think again, we can see that it comes from his upbringing, is searching for spiritual truth. And I think that's really, with all of this, everything that we tell you, shock value, not shock value, it's done on the search of spiritual truth. And, even with spiritual truth, you have to break boundaries and pass those limits to know where they are.
Well, yeah, most of us just don't want to go there.
No, and I'm not, yeah, that's the thing is I don't necessarily don't think that people should do it. But, looking back, you can look at stuff that's like, because even if we were with him at this time, we would be appalled by what he does. We wouldn't understand it. But now
Right.
looking at it, you can analyze it and see it so much better. So it's hard information to kind of like look at and not judge as bad and demonize it, right?
Right.
But this is where people start to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So they would take this man and they'd be like, no, he is bad and evil. But like the information that he got that came through his essence is really valuable.
Hmm.
So it's a hard line to walk. Like you don't want to end up like him, a heroin addict and penniless and alone. So you read the information and you do it, you do with what you will with it. Mhm.
Do with what you will.
So do with what you will. Um, all right, we're gonna go into the Golden Dawn. Did you have anything about his younger life?
Yeah, just a couple things. So when he attended Trinity College in the University of Cambridge, and that's when he changed his name to Alistair when he was in his 20s. Because I didn't know his actual name was Edward Alexander until I went to a different article.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he changed his name in his 20s because he never felt like Edward Alexander fit him. And there was a whole story behind that. If that piques your interest, go ahead and look that up. It was just too information for me to put out here. His first book was actually of poetry and it
Mm-hmm.
appeared in 1898. He has quite a few books out now that like he published throughout his life, but that was his first one because he went to school for poetry and
Moral psychology.
there it is. And then, yeah, other than that, I did find it also interesting that when he was a mountaineer, Crowley hiked a lot. And one of his hikes after 3 years of going on expeditions, during one of those, four of Crowley's climbers were killed in an avalanche. And it was said that Crowley, and now this is hearsay, of course, because there's different reports. So it was said
Right.
that Crowley, who had advised them against taking that route because it was fatal, ignored the cries for help from the survivors of the accident. He was like, I told you. Bye. And I was like, huh, okay. Could be true, could not be. I'm not sure, but it was in the my favorite website.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you could believe it's true. And maybe it was if he's got strong moral, like he wasn't going to go down there if it's fatal.
He told him it was fatal.
All right. So if he goes in there to try to save them, especially on the mountain,
Yeah, where there was
like
just an
that's not,
avalanche.
yeah, that's not just like, oh, I'm down the street in the alleyway. It's on a mountain.
Right. Yeah, because I found it very interesting that he was so like mountains piqued his interest so much. He did like these really big hikes and would just travel around to do these big hikes. I found that
It's
very
a,
interesting.
yeah, I find that very wild. Like it's almost like it doesn't fit in my brain of him.
I agree.
Like I keep trying to put it in and be like, because I think this whole thing about how like we think he's evil, um, and evil men don't necessarily achieve great things. So him being very good at chess, him being very like think of what the effort it takes to climb a mountain.
It couldn't be me.
I mean, it's just so much effort and so much focus and so much like um I don't know if integrity is the right word. It's just a lot. It's
It's
a
a
lot
lot.
of like it's not you can't go up there and fake a mountain.
Well, and it's not like he did it once and was like, yeah, I'm
Right.
good. He did
Right,
like
right, right.
big ass mountains multiple times.
Yeah. I think I have it in here where he did the Alps at one point, and he wasn't very successful at it, but he had got a download basically, and it wrote the book of
Mm.
the law or something like that. One of the
Yeah,
books.
because my other thing is I think that knowing that he was a mountaineer and he did all this kind of makes him more human in my head and
Hmm.
not this like big figure that's talked about a lot in metaphysics. It brings him back down to human level in a way where I'm like, now I'm not gonna lie, if I hear Crowley, I'm like, he was a mountaineer.
He was a mountaineer.
We don't talk about that, but he was a mountaineer.
It goes to show that he is when was he born? Like
Oc-
what day?
October 12th.
So he's a Libra?
Hmm.
That's fascinating. I'd actually like to look at his chart.
It was October 12th, 1875. We just have to know the
Wow.
time and specific place in England.
Oh, that's true. And I don't think they kept those kind of. Traveled Europe. He traveled a lot. Uh, okay, so at some point he had met this guy named George Cecil Jones, which was a chemist and secretly a member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn is a magical. Fuck, I'm gonna talk myself into circles. Anyway, basically, you do magical rituals to cleanse and purify yourself to attain enlightenment at some point. So, like you, and in the orders, you have levels. So you would do these almost like a college. You would do these level until you end up being a sophomore, and then you're a sophomore, and they have their own grade, like names and stuff like that. So you would go through this and uh, achieve certain knowledgement and doctrines. This is where you would study the occult and hermetics. And then when you got to a certain proficiency, you would level up and you would go into, and it's the whole thing of new level, new devil kind of thing. So you would
Hmm.
literally level up. And you can always, obviously, there's plenty of books on the Golden Dawn, Hermetics, all that stuff, ritual magic, ceremonial magic. Do
Do the
your own
work,
research.
doc.
That's right. Okay, so in 1898, uh, he was initiated into the Golden Dawn under the magical name of Frater Herder Aldo.
Herder.
Herder Aldo. Herder Aldo. It's
Hmm.
like Perdurado. Her,
Birdo? I think it'd be
Herder
Fur
Aldo.
Furdo, maybe? I like that you
Uh,
said Purder.
Herder. Uh,
Words.
which those meanings or that meaning was I will endure to the end,
Hmm.
which is actually quite fitting.
Agreed.
Um, so one of the co-founders of the Order of the Golden Dawn is Samuel Little McGregor Mathers. He has translated a lot of um, magical theories and old text into books for us so that we could read them. One of them being the Abramelin, which we will talk about later. About this time, Alan Bennett was introduced, and he was supposed to keep an eye on Mr. Aliester Crowley because Mathers didn't necessarily think there was something about him. Like he was very eager and very like willing and very talented, but there was something about him that kind of like cautioned Mathers.
Hmm.
So Alan Bennett was his mentor and his roommate because a lot of these guys didn't have money and Alistair did. So he would bring them and put them up, especially if they were useful to him in some
Right.
way. So obviously he wanted to get to the second level of the Golden Dawn, and Alan, I think, was in it. So then they did a lot of like magic and taught him a lot of stuff about the about to get him to the second stage. This is also where he was introduced to yoga and Buddhism through Alan, and he rose quickly in the ranks at that point. He really wanted to get initiated into the second part of the order. I don't think he ever really did. 'Cause I think he ended up going sideways at this point, right? Because it was seven
Yeah.
months. You had to wait 7 months to get in there. So even if you did all the stuff, the time period was still, you had to wait 7 months once it was done.
Yeah.
Um, they didn't really think that Aleister Crowley knew the difference between good and evil.
I would say he begged to differ.
Mm. Why so? Why so beg to differ?
Which we can talk about later, but I will say that I would say he begged to differ.
Oh, well, and this is part, he started, Aleister Crowley did a lot of drug use. And in this time, a lot of drug use for especially the wealthy was very common. Like this was like one of those wealth things because you only did drugs if you had the money.
Right,
So you would actually do the drugs because you had the money because you had the money.
right. These were like the aristocrats that were having parties and it was a party favor.
Right, right. At some point he had a skeleton, a human skeleton, and he tried with blood and fed it, uh, I think birds and stuff that he tried to bring back to life.
He had a human skeleton that he fed blood and birds, hoping that it would bring it back to life. It would just grow its
Mhm.
own flesh and bone and organs again and come back to life.
Well, again, you read the stuff and it's either mystical or it's allegory or it's like a superstition.
Mm.
And I feel like he's one of those people that goes, well, let's see if it works. Let's throw
Yeah,
some
okay. I have yeah, I'll give you that. Okay, that's a good point. Thank you.
um I know this is in the occult arena, especially in ritual magic. Not a lot of people indulge in it though, but mind altering drugs uh, sometimes will help people achieve a higher state of consciousness. I would say the only problem with this, I believe it's a good way to do it if you're doing it in a way that is respectful, obviously, and all the other safety precautions. But it's almost like a false way to get there, and you can become reliant on it, and that's the problem. Because if it's easier for you and you're always going to take the easy way out, then this is not necessarily the way you're going to want to do it because you're going to use it as a crutch. And it's going to be a false sense of doing it.
Right, because after
So,
all, it is a crutch.
right. So, like, it will help you, it will give you tidbits to get there on your own. And that's how you have to use it. But
Yeah,
once that drug starts using you, then you've failed. Like you can't. That's not the
agreed.
way it's supposed to go. I believe he was always searching. He was always searching for like, again, it goes back to the spiritual truth. So he's trying to look for truth in spirituality, which is a never-ending story, I believe.
Agreed.
All right, 1900s, he bought a house because he wanted to perform. There's a very in-depth ritual called the Abramelin. It's in a book translated by Sacred Texts. It's the sacred magic of Abramelin, the mage. Yep, that's how you
Exactly
say
like
it, folks.
that. That is
That's how you
exactly how
say it,
you
folks.
say it. If you don't say it that way, you're wrong.
The book will disappear in your hand and you will be out of
You don't
it.
even want to say it any other way. You don't want to know what happens.
That's how you say it. That's the way I'm sticking to it. If you want a really good rendition of this practice, watch A Dark Song.
Hmm,
This is very much kind of what it would look like.
hmm.
At least the best rendition that I have seen that wasn't corny as hell. Because usually this stuff is like you see it and you're like, oh, stop doing it. This was done very well. So he bought the Bullskin House, which was later purchased by somebody from Led Zeppelin. This was located off the shores of Loch Ness, Scotland. It was a hunting lodge. And in this ritual, you have to take a specific house and you have to do specific rooms for specific things. Like it's very detailed and very strict. You know, like you have to abstain from sex and you can't, I don't think you can eat meat while you're doing this. And you have to pray a lot of the day, like the whole day long. And you can't get up just because you have to go to the bathroom. It's very strict.
Hmm.
And it's a 6 to 18 month like thing. And you can't leave the house. And like once the house is sealed, you can't leave the house.
It's
uh
intense.
it's intense. That's the word I want. Yes. So what this is going to do, if you do this, will um, put you in contact with in conversation with your holy guardian angel. And in ritual magic, it's called the HGA. And it's you also at the same time master both divine forces and demonic forces. So basically, once you get a hold of them, then you have to bind your demons.
Hmm.
I'm dying.
The universe said, no.
Stop talking. You're giving away all of our secrets.
Secrets.
Secrets. Uh, yeah, we talked about that. 6 to 18 months of uninterrupted work. So at some point, at this point, he might have gotten blowback from this. I'm not quite sure. Because once you start a ritual, you're really not supposed to end it. And he, at some point, had to leave and abandon the rituals to go back to Paris to help Mathers, who was struggling for control over the Golden Dawn.
Hmm.
So the other co-owner, which I can't remember his name, him and Mathers were struggling for control over how the Golden Dawn was going to be run.
Hmm.
And for whatever reason, he called Crowley to come back. And basically, it sounds like Crowley came in like a wrecking ball and seized the London Temple on Mather's behalf. But his involvement really alienated a lot of the members in the group. So this actually led to his expulsion from the Golden Dawn. After that, he traveled to Mexico, continued his studies, claimed to have practiced in Enochian magic, which is angel magic, and studied under a magician named Don Jesus Medina. Dina. Dina. Medina. He also climbed some mountains,
Mountains. This man loves mountains
but still think it's
because
weird.
he is a man. I
It's just so weird that he climbs mountains. Yeah, I do ritual magic and I climb mountains.
kind of love it. Like I said, it brings him back into like a more human thing, not this like big scary person. I'm like,
Hmm.
mountaineer.
Mountaineer. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, wait. Then he went to Asia, Sri Lankan, Sri Lankan, I don't know. He went there. And in India, he deepened his study with Buddhism and yoga. He met up with his old mentor, Alan, and roommate, Alan Bennett, who at this time was a Buddhist monk and lived there in
Mm,
India.
cool.
He also climbed some mountain that I can't pronounce, and it's the third highest mountain in the world. Although he was unsuccessful, it demonstrated that his adventurous spirit and leadership. So it really highlighted those two things on him. To who I don't know, because this is the way I take notes. You get to fill in the gaps.
It is Changchenjunga.
Yeah, that's it.
Changchenjunga. It's a mountain in the Himalayas.
I'm really glad I didn't say that out loud,
Yeah.
because that's not what I was going to say.
I do hope I said that right, but I really doubt it. Changchendondzonga. There's three different names for it, so but it's in the Himalayas.
Okay, that's good.
Much more digestible.
Yeah, that helps. All right. So after that, in 1903, he married his first wife, Rose Edith Kelly. Um, Apparently, the backstory on this one is that she was supposed to marry some other person, and because um, she had basically had some spiritual gift that was helping Crowley guide his path. And if she was married to somebody else, then he wouldn't be able to get this kind of prophecy. So he kind of like married her up so she didn't have to marry. Not that she complained, by the way, but because I don't think she wanted to marry the other guy either.
I also read that they ended up actually being a really strong couple for a while because they were like both into the same things.
Yeah. I think where they went down was when they had a daughter and she passed away.
Yeah, and then his wife actually descended into her own darkness of full-blown
Hmm.
alcoholism. And
Hmm.
then after their daughter's death, she struggled to get a divorce or struggled to get like grip on the world and ended up being committed into an institution.
Hmm. Yeah, see, that's the hard part. I, that stuff's hard.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that happened during their honeymoon was during they were in Egypt. Rose apparently went into a trance condition, directing Crowley to contact the deity Horus, which Horus is like the child of Isis and Osiris,
Hmm.
like the alchemical child
Virgin.
of her age. This led him to his book called The Book of the Law. this text became the foundation for his order, which was or is called Thelema. All right, so developing Thelema, after Cairo, Crowley became fully embraced in his role of the prophet of Thelema. He became the okay, I don't know what I was saying there. He emphasized in his order, he wanted to emphasize the individual will and the spiritual freedom, and it wanted to encapsulate that in the doctrine. So his whole thing is do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. So that's his whole doctrine. Like that's what he's basing all of the Thelema on.
Did you get anything about Iwas on this?
And what?
Iwas?
Uh-uh.
Awas? So during that visit, it's and when he went to do this meditative state to get to Horus, he claimed that he met his who he later referred to as his own guardian angel who dictated this book to him, who was called
Oh,
Iwas. And through that book, and through Iwas is where he came up with the Eon of Horus that then turned
yes.
into that primary precept that you were just talking about, his main
Okay.
goal. Yeah. So he basically said that this guardian angel that came to him like discarnate, which means having no physical body, is his who dictated this book to him.
Which theoretically, I think the Holy Guardian Angel is different than a spirit guide, but I'm leaning more towards your higher self, but in a much grander way than like what we think about. Like, oh, when I say, oh, I'm tapping into my higher self or whatever, like
Mm.
it's been thrown around where this is like almost incomprehensible because you would have to think of a being with no ego, just pure divine consciousness, which is you. Like I would be the lower self, where they would be the higher self, right?
Right.
And then together we would be one. Um, so discovering true will, freedom and individuality, and love. Those were the basics of Salima. Love under will means that all actions should be guided by love, but executed through one's true, authentic will. That's what I was looking for because I was like, how do I explain love under will? Because it sounds bad. Sounds like your will to be put above love, but that's not what it means. Love under will means that all actions should be guided by love, but executed through one's true, authentic will.
Mm.
So this is what's really hard because we as a society want people to act a certain way, and we find that deeming good or bad, right? Like if you act this way, you're a good person. If you act this way, you're a bad person. Um, to find somebody's true, authentic will would look different to everybody. You wouldn't necessarily have groups. You would have to like, it would be like fire accepting water and, air accepting earth. And it's so, um, but you're not gonna ask fire to act like water,
Right.
right? Like you would have to honor the differences in the the people's authentic will. Yeah, shifting into the age, the Aeon of Horus, characterization by the supreme of individuality and the spiritual empowerment of each person. The new era symbolizes the child Horus represents strength, individuality, and destruction of outdated and oppressive structure.
Hmm.
Because if you take Osiris and you take Isis, they have their own form, thoughts. So now you got to marry them together and create a whole new one. And then this is how we start to outdate anything that is no longer useful is going to not go into that child. It's only going to take the best of both parents, right?
Right.
Um, so the ceremonial magic in Thelema incorporated the elements of the Kabbalah, astrology, and alchemy and other mystical traditions. Crowley designed a couple symbols to represent the principles such as the Star of Babylon and the Ankh. I don't know what the Star of Babylon is, but I think it's the one where they do.
Uh, it looks, well, how do I explain how this looks? Because I can't really get a good shape. It's like a triangle kind of this way, but those come down into 2 points at the bottom, and it's almost like a square, but the square doesn't connect at the bottom. It's 2 points. So it has
Uh,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points.
yeah, I think I know what it is. I think I actually use it. Babylon. Please give me an image. Oh, it's that. I didn't know that. That's not what I was thinking. So it's this, right? Is that what you got?
Yes, yes, thank you. It says that the Star of Babylon is a symbol associated with the goddess Babylon. Okay, Babylon maybe. It represents liberation, fertility, and the seven guiding principles of the underworld, also known as the Babylonian seal or the Babylonian mystery. It is sometimes called the Mother of Abominations. Hmm.
Oh,
Hmm.
I'd have to look more into that because as soon as I hear abomination, I'm like, no, we can't.
I'm like, tell me more.
Tell me more. Tell me. Listen, ma'am, that is not nice. That chair did not do anything. Okay, okay, okay. Magical tools and techniques. He also included the new magical tools such as the Holy Table and the Thelemic Tarot cards to help the practitioners to spiritual enlightenment and connect to their true will, which he does have a whole tarot card set out.
Hmm.
So he founded in 1907. Is that right? Yeah. 1907, the AA, the magical order designed to guide individuals in achievement, enlightenment, and the recognition of their true will, which that order is still going on today. Also, he helped with the OTO, which is Ordo Templi ordinance.
Sounds good to me.
Although he didn't create this, he became the leader in 1912 and adapted the rituals to incorporate in the Thelema's principles, establishing a more formalized structure for the Thelema practice. Um, he's wrote many books on that helps him with so it's funny because like a couple of the books that he's read, I've read or he wrote, I read, but they're so, especially because I listened to it on Audible, they're so dramatic. And you're like,
Yeah.
what the he- like they're so above my pay grade right now that I can't like even understand the words that are coming out
Well,
because it
and he was
makes no
also a
sense.
poet, and I really do think that we forget that because the man literally
Yeah.
went to school for poetry. Granted, he didn't get his degree, but still, I think he had a way with words and saying
Hmm.
things that probably caught people off guard a lot of the times, anyways.
Yeah, they're read very dramatically.
Yeah.
Like when you're listening in the car too loud, people are like,
Like, okay.
move along, nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Keep
Just
it moving.
listen to Crowley.
You don't even know who that is.
Even no. Um, so he was a big advocate also in sex magic, using magical sexual magic to as a tool for spiritual and magical development. He believed that sexual energy could be harnessed to achieve a greater spiritual insight. Basically, he wanted people and practitioners to, he encouraged them for personal freedoms and dismantlement of conventional moral systems, allowing practitioners to fully express their will and to live authentically. That's all I've got.
That, no. On just that? Or,
No, that's it. That's all I got.
oh shit. Okay. Well, here we go. I got more. I'll
Thank
pick up where
God.
you left off. Okay. So
Thank God.
after he created this whole Thelma religion, right? Which, by the way, Thelma is the Greek word for will. Also, I thought that was interesting. I mean, literally,
Oh,
the
that's
man
good.
uses will in everything. And I'm like, okay, I think we understand that everything is based on will. We get it.
Get it.
We get it. I told you this one during before the podcast because I thought this was very kind of funny and interesting. But anyways, we'll see what you guys think. So during World War II or World War One, Crowley resided in the US, and after the war he moved to someplace on the Italian island of Sicily. I know how to say that, so that's what I'm going to say. And he converted a house into a sanctuary he called the Abbey of Thelma. And what happened there was at this abbey, there was rumors that at his headquarters, him and his followers experimented with sex and drugs and like these series of bizarre rituals, right? Well,
Mhm.
then Crowley goes and gets himself kicked out because he had a death of a young follower and uh they allegedly it was allegedly after participating in sacrilegious rituals, which I love that they use that word because that word outside of the meaning is satisfying. Sacrilegious rituals. And so it also led to the denunciations of Crowley in the British popular press because there's a lot that's going to be talked about in the British popular press, and this is when they started naming him as the wickedest man in the world. And then he
Yeah.
got expelled from the expulsion from Italy in 1923.
The
So,
whole country.
oh yeah, the whole country was like, this man's evil, he's a traitor to the Brits.
Out.
Out, leave. Allegedly, the Englishman that died, that was one of his followers, they said the paper died because he consumed the blood of cats. Nothing about the drugs. No, no. Just the sacrilegious ritual of drinking the blood of a cat. Okay. So, after that, Crowley moves back to England in the early 1930s after exhausting like his inheritance. Um, Basically lived poor after that, but
Mm-hmm.
his notable achievements was the publication of the Book of Thoth in 1944, in which he interpreted that new tarot deck, which is called the Thoth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he designed it in collaboration with an artist, Frida Harris. Um, let's see, he died in poverty and obscurity in English rooming house in 1947. And he died from bronchitis. Where is that at? Something bronchitis, chronic bronchitis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, his funeral was dubbed the Black Mass.
Yeah.
Um, and he only achieved fame, true fame after his death.
Yeah.
Um, during the Black Mass, it was only attended by a few of his closest friends and associates, despite his words reaching hundreds of thousands of people throughout the years. Let's see what else we got here. Um, I thought this was interesting because I didn't know this. The Beatles put his picture on the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album cover.
Yeah.
Definitely have that t-shirt at home, but it doesn't, it just says Sgt. Pepper's Hearts Club
Um,
Band.
I just thought it doesn't have the whole people on it.
No, and I didn't know he was on that, so I had to go, I went on a whole thing with that. Um, so yeah, another Reddit article that I read had named him the traitor of the British people. Um, because where was this? I'm sorry, I gotta my apparently my stuff is not as well and the the orders that I wanted it to be apparently. Um, so the reason that he was also a traitor to the Brits was because his travels also were like there was these rumors that followed all of his travels that he was working as a British intelligence spy. Because every country, that several of the countries that he drifted through were coincidentally under investigation by the Brits. So the Brits were
Oh,
like, spy, horrible person, traitor, traitor. Um, we did talk about how Crowley's mom was his mom,
yeah. He had
and
mommy issues
he
for
had
sure.
mommy issues.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in this article that I read that was based on his autobiography, it said that Crowley continued to explore his bisexuality in seeking out prostitutes. Didn't know he
Mm-hmm.
was bisexual. Um, but while this life for him was eye-opening and spiritual, high levels of the Mount Golden Dawn consider it too libertine and refused to allow him entry into the upper levels because of it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that makes sense why they wouldn't let him up. That was too,
Yeah, because I think him and Alan were getting kind of close, and they were like, it was illegal for one thing,
yeah.
and and obviously a lot of people in the population look down upon it. So progress.
So, I mean, yeah, true. Because that's like what I had to end up doing is during the research with Crowley is, of course, we got all this history, right? But then I was like, what? Why do people tell me he's the most evil man in the history of evil men? Blah, blah, blah. I need to know. I need to know. So then I started looking up more. It makes sense to me partly because of the time period. Yes, I will not say that everything he did was great because obviously when he was 11, he was a little
Mm-mm.
psychotic. But
Well, his
I,
dad just died.
yeah, but also he was also he had mommy issues too. I mean, the child had problems. But apparently one of the heinous things he did,
Ooh,
heathens.
heinous. I like that.
He did,
Heinous.
and he also claimed to do was to communicate with demons and supernatural forces. Now, this led him into creating the book, The Goetia of Solomon the King. and how it was used to summon all sorts of demons and devils, and along with instructions on summoning the demons and descriptions of who they are, the forms they take, and what they have power over. And I read that Crowley also includes a pretty fascinating rational explanation for why the summonings work. And of course, I had to dive into this one. So, according to Crowley, magical phenomena are made up of six things: taste, touch, smell, sight, sound, and the mind. Simple, right? But he said it's depending on how they're stimulated. The first five changes in the brain, which are the first five cause changes in the brain, which are then manifested as magical results. This is also
Right.
why he claims sex magic work.
Hmm.
Um, Once the mind processed what it's receiving from the senses, it projects the results back into the physical world, and that means that all the demons and devils come right from the mind of the person conjuring them. So the
Absolutely.
names are essentially vibrations, which stimulate a part of the brain and allow the caster to control the part associated with particular demons. And I said,
Yes.
yeah, uh-huh, makes sense to
Well,
me.
because everything outside is inside. So there's a whole thing about how, oh Lord, there's whole chaos happening on the other side of the screen.
Just for your viewing entertainment.
I can't even see it because what are you doing? Crazy. They're crazy. I don't know. But so theoretically, we have to start off because our baby brains, we have to start off with like, oh, angels are there. They're only outside. Well, then you realize the more you read, the more you research, the more you're like, wait, what's inside is outside. So if what is above is below and what is inside is outside, eh, then these angels are technically part of me.
Hmm. Yeah.
So when you're doing ritual magic, you throw them out or even summons them. It was very hard for me to figure out how to like, well, if you say they're inside me and I don't know how this is, but I'm trusting your word on it, right? Then eventually you're like, oh, so these are parts of me. So almost like I think it's in the Nahamani where they actually show where all of like these angels and demons like reside in your body.
Mm,
Like it's
interesting.
all like if you look at the full form of it, it'll be like, oh, here's one and here's one, and one's the left eye, and one angel governs the right eye, and then your nostril, and then the other nostril, and then like your teeth and your mouth and your cheeks and whatever,
Yeah,
so on and so forth. Um, but that also means that like we have demons inside of us, right? Because we're all capable of doing glorious things or awful things. And so it's a very interesting and a very long way to like kind of think through how that's real for you. Because if we hold on to these little truths that we have, it's like, okay, if I know this and I know this, then you got to try to figure out how do we get from here to here? Like, how does this go from here to here?
right.
What does that look like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? What does it look like? And that's what essentially you're doing in ritual magic
Yep.
or spirituality, all of it.
Whatever you do in your summonings.
Yeah, yeah. What do
Yeah,
we do in that room with the locked door?
yeah. Okay, got two more things and then that's it. That's all she wrote. Um, okay, during like the World Wars and everything, according to Crowley, the Allied V for victory, which the Allied was those that were allied against the Nazis. The Allied V for victory, which is this, we've seen it a lot. It's in a lot throughout history. He claimed that to be his creation. Crowley stated that the V for victory sign was just as powerful as the swastika in opposition. It was a magical, mystical sign that involved the power of a pop, a pop, a pop, a pope, a
Oh,
this.
hold on. A
Hmm.
papas.
Thank you. I was like,
Papas.
you know this word? I do not.
Typhoon and a papas.
Yes, and it channeled their destructive forces into fighting for those who wielded it. So it was supposed to be this thing you did that channeled these forces in to help you, like,
Yeah, so in when we're doing the hold on, let me find um oh, the Rose Cross.
it's somewhere
So
in the files.
I know I was like, ah. So the Rose Cross, you're summoning Isis, mourning Isis because Osiris is dead. And then you channel Apophis and Typhoon, which
Mm.
you literally make a V, right? And then
Wow.
Osiris,
Okay, so
risen.
yeah, he was saying that V for victory, that's what they were doing, is he's like, you're channeling those two destructive
Hmm.
forces to help wield it for the allied
Hmm.
forces.
Well, and furthermore, I've thought lot. I haven't dug into this yet, but like, if you start looking into um the Holocaust and everything, the swastika is like obviously they perverted it and turned it on its side, right? If you look up the actual like swastika, it's actually more like a cube,
Mm.
and it's for Earth. But then also this symbol here is for Earth.
Hmm.
Like if I'm summoning Earth, that's the symbol I use. So you
Interesting.
start seeing these magical, like not only the sign that he used, but also he had everybody channeling this energy, Lord of the Earth.
Interesting.
And it's wild because like I said, that's about as far as I've went on that thought because I
Right.
don't have time to go down that rabbit hole right now. And but I would really almost like to see a documentary, like just to see, because I swear they had to been using magic.
Yeah, like a metaphysical take on it.
Yeah, yeah.
We need the boys at Know Thyself to deep dive that one because
I know, maybe
they're on
I'll
a higher
see.
pay grade than us.
Absolutely. Maybe we can contact them through Instagram. At
Right?
least we know that they like,
Mm. Or Patreon.
oh yeah, that too.
That's a good idea.
Because that would be a fabulous like topic on like figuring that one out. Because I'm like, wait a minute. There's already two coincidences. Like,
Yeah.
you know how I feel about coincidences.
Magical Wars.
Magical
Okay.
wars.
The last one I got is uh okay, so obviously we know Crowley was a major player in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn at one point, and he had his falling out with the secret society within only a few years of his 1898 induction. Um, because again, they wouldn't let him move up. Crowley got mad. Here's what happened. And this comes from two different autobiographies from him, on him. One from him, one from the Golden Dawn. So this set a pretty good precedent for just how many different stories have been developed around him, where these two different autobiographies, again, one from him, one from the Golden Dawn. Crowley essentially disagreed. This is on Crowley's part of it. He essentially disagreed with the organization initiating people who he believed didn't necessarily know what they were dealing with when it came to mysticism, rituals, and rites. And he stated that the founder, Mathers, did have some mystical powers, some, but that he had essentially bitten off more than he could chew and started mucking around with evil spirits over which he had no control, or evils over which he had no control. And then he said that his actions had destroyed the order and Crowley left. Now, granted, now that we know more, do I think that's exactly what happened? Probably not. And I think partly it's because he was mad that people are getting initiated and potentially moving up quicker than him because of
Hmm.
his sexual practices and whatnot, and all the other list of things he was doing at the time. But the order
Hmm.
tells a very different story. And according to their official biography on Crowley, his rather over the top personality and sexual orientation were already causing problems when there was a falling out between two opposing factions within the organization, which you had talked about.
Hmm.
He finished off his alienation of the group by publishing some of their secret documents. So not the book, The Golden Dawn, but some of the secret documents that were only allowed to be with members of a certain level. He
Hmm.
took them and published them. And to add insult to injury, he wasn't just revealing secrets, but he was giving himself credit for the works that Mathers had written.
Oof.
And Crowley can't claim to be doing it because Mathers was actually under the influence of evil that he couldn't control. So then, when all of this happened, lawsuits soon followed. But since Mathers didn't copyright the works outside of the organization, Crowley won it.
That's crazy.
And I was like, wow. Drama.
Drama.
We are so on the same page because I was like, that is just
Drama.
so
Yeah,
drama.
that is group drama for
Group
sure.
drama, dude. I was
Good
like, holy God
Lord.
almighty. Can you imagine just being a group being the person that's like, yeah, man, I'm just here to learn, like, and then I want to go home. Like,
I gotta go.
I'm just gonna see my way out.
Well, I think it's like one of those things of like, all right, you want to go through this like order and get all the like recognition. If you notice that Crowley never really finished anything,
No,
but he didn't really necessarily have to either,
right.
because there's still value in the work that he has. His Thelema is still going on to this day.
Yep.
There are people that are in the orders. Um, they follow the will. Uh, so it's not like he wasn't necessarily uh wrong. He wasn't necessarily right either. And it would make me very uncomfy to do some of the stuff that he did. And that's kind of why I appreciate him doing it, so I don't have to.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
I can learn from his mistakes. I'm very good at that.
Same. Agreed. I wonder though how differently he would be portrayed in the current modern world. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and it's funny that you say that because I literally was thinking, I'm like, well, technically, now this would be a theory, but like, what if his death portrayed his like timeline over this like earth? So we have all this sparking of these individualities right now about like, especially like gender stuff and um mental like ADHD and all these titles that we have for ourselves now. Like almost like we've went and like be an individual. Do it. Like
Yep.
it's a weird like um blanket of energy that's kind of went over the world. And I feel like it started probably around there and gained momentum.
Yeah,
Um to what end? I mean, I don't know at that point, but like I mean, realistically, so we can all live authentically. It's gonna have a little ups and downs and bumps and bruises right now because that's the way evolution works. And if it's its own egregore, it's growing and learning. And then, and again, when you grow and learn, you mess up, you change your direct trajectory, and then you get up again and do it again.
yeah,
And that's how growth works. All I got to
absolutely.
say about That's all I got to say about that.
That's all she wrote, man. Next week we have another exciting topic. We are talking about H.P. Lovecraft.
Good Lord.
Love. I love this end of the year. It's so good.
So good. Titillating.
Titillating. That's a fun word.
Titillating. I
That's pretty
know.
good. I like that word. All right, peeps. You got anything else for him?
This was Heathens at Night.
Heathens at night. Thanks for being here. Love you guys.
Get weird.
Yep. Bye.